When you think about all the major changes you've seen the exchange go through, just in the last few decades compared to the last century, what do you think was really the most dramatic and traumatic for the organization?
Well, I think that one of the important parts of our industry, but as importantly, the New York Stock Exchange, is that it's an incredibly resilient institution. And I think it's what has endured for 214 years. And I have a very limited stewardship here, so, 33 years. But in the 70s, we had very poor economic conditions in this country, and yet the exchange managed to get through one of the worst recessions in history. I think in the 80s we had the crash, in the 90s we had the bursting of the dot-com bubble and all of the aftermath that brought, and then we had 9/11. But I think through each of those periods of crisis, this industry has been incredibly resilient, has pulled itself together, has made the appropriate changes that were necessary to bring the industry and certainly the New York Stock Exchange to a new level of success.
Cathy, what's your definition of success at the end of the day?
As a single person, an individual can really make a contribution to a whole. I like to tell students when they come through the exchange that any one person in an organization can be both can be the most valued member of a team, or can help an organization, or it can also hurt an organization. I think it's just important to know that even though you're an individual and you're an individual contributor, you're generally responsible to a whole and to a body of people who are trying to achieve some set of goals and objectives, and you can't lose sight of that. So it's not that I really ever thought about it. I think it wasn't until I got into a business environment where I saw how effective any single person could be, but any group of individuals can make a whole team really successful.
Can you think of a time when you've had to work at squirreling up the courage to make something happen, or manifest, or take action, or lead in any way?
My mother used to say the world's full of naysayers, people who will talk you out of why you should do something and why some things are important. And I think sometimes you have to sort of, bury that and put the naysayers to the side and really try to go down deep, as you say, to get the conviction to do what you think is really right.
Cathy, how do you make balance actually work in your life when you've got so many people who need you here at the office and those who need you at home?
Very early on, I had a great, very supportive husband and family, and they were always helping me, trying to navigate through the sort of inevitable demands of anyone's career and passion. And so I think it's just having a support network, having people around you who really care about you and can help you sort of see, because it's very easy to lose perspective when you're in something you really love and that you're doing, and it's very rewarding. And sometimes when you're very passionate about something, you're getting a lot of the benefits of being so involved in something. And you lose sight of, as I said, the perspective that you need, that there are other things that will be, should be, and are as important. And it really is trying to create that balance.
Cathy, thanks for being with us.
It was wonderful.
Thanks so much. So John, when you think about what has made success endure for these chief executives, for entrepreneurs, for community leaders, what do you think the magic is for those people?
Well, I do think that the real success is the long-term success. And I think having vision and having a long-term vision of, if it's a company, where do you want the company to go? And I actually think that there is still too much focus on quarter-to-quarter earnings and short-term results. But I think those leaders who lead great companies have a much longer-term view and vision as to where the company is going, what the company's strategy is. And then they have what I guess I would call a tremendous commitment, and they're driven to push the company along that path.
What was driving you and your soul to want to take on something that's going to be less profitable personally? Certainly the old definition of success is money, fame, and power. This doesn't seem to be about that.
Well, that's true. I wouldn't have taken this job if everything had been running smoothly. The real reason that I accepted this job, which was the argument that eventually got me to do this, was that it is, the New York Stock Exchange is a very important part of the U.S. and the world's financial system. It's a 214-year-old institution, and it's important that it be successful. And so this was really a chance for me to give something back to the system. It was a chance to make a change and really turn around not just only the culture, but also the perception of Wall Street and the New York Stock Exchange, to reestablish trust, to reestablish confidence in the marketplace. The other thing that I'm underestimated is the extent to which there are so many different constituencies at a place like the New York Stock Exchange, and how difficult it is to get those constituencies to agree on anything, and in particular on a strategy and where you're going to go. And all the different players here, whether it's the big broker-dealers, the specialists, the brokers on the floor, the owners of the exchange, many of whom actually didn't work on the exchange anymore, and then of course all the customers, both the buy side and the sell side, and then all the investors, both individual investors, institutional investors. You know, that collection of different groups, it would be very hard to get them to agree what day it was, let alone what direction the exchange should go. And so reaching a consensus, saying, okay, this is the direction we're going to go to, and then moving the various different constituencies along that line was actually much more challenging than I would have thought.
How the heck do you do that?
Well, you spend a lot of time listening and talking and soliciting opinions, and then you spend a lot of time convincing. And really, the process is not one where you can simply say, you know, I'm the CEO, do what I tell you, because most of these constituents don't work for me. Mm-hmm. So the employee base is actually the easy part of the equation. All the different constituencies are really take much more of a convincing and much more of a collective approach.
When you think of life challenges that you've had, what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned that's helped you be a better chief executive?
Well, you know, the way I think about that is whatever you're doing, whether it's your job or a sport or you know, I suppose growing up, you know, whether it's you know, cleaning your room, you know, doing whatever you're doing as well as possible. It's, you know, always working to be the best at whatever you're doing, always looking to do as good a job as you can do. You know, that striving to be the best, or striving to do as good a job as you can, no matter, even if it's a little task or a mundane task. You know, I think that's an important element of if you try to do everything as well as you can always. You know, I think that is an important piece of what makes you successful in a business career, because you know, sometimes business careers are based upon little things. You know, always being polite and responsive to your employee base, even the lowest levels of the employee's base. You know, I think just the constant striving to do the best job you can.
When you were thinking about early in your career or in your life about what you were going to do, did you ever imagine you'd be doing something remotely like this?
Wall Street is truly an American miracle in many ways, because you know, somebody like me who starts knowing no one, comes from a small town in the Midwest. I had no mentors here. I knew no people here. I had no money. The first day I started work at Goldman Sachs, I had zero money. And over the course of 20 plus years, rose to be the president of Goldman Sachs, and then had the opportunity to be the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange. I think that says great things about our country.
Thank you very much.